It's called Anyone's Ministry. Ministry is a quality of relationship between and among human beings that beckons forth hidden possibilities. Inviting people into deeper, more constant, more reverent relationship with the world and with one another. Carrying forward a long heritage of hope and liberation that has dignified and informed the human venture over many centuries. Being present with, to, and for others in their terrors and torments, in their grief, misery, and pain, knowing that those feelings are our feelings too. Celebrating the triumphs of the human spirit, the miracles of birth and life, the wonders of devotion and sacrifice. Witnessing to life-enhancing values. Speaking truth to power. Speaking for human dignity and equity, for compassion and aspiration. Believing in life in the presence of death. Struggling for human responsibility against principalities and structures that ignore humaneness and become instruments of death. It is all these and much, much more than all of them, present in the wordless, the unspoken, the ineffable. It is speaking and living the highest we know, and living with the knowledge that it is never as deep or as wide or as high as we wish. Whenever there is a meeting that summons us to our better selves, wherever our lostness is found, our fragments are united, our wounds begin healing, our spines stiffen and our muscles grow strong for the task. There is ministry. Thank you, Reverend McKeown. Ministry is not just for ministers. As you've heard just now in our reading, anyone can minister. And in our world these days, we need every minister we can get. I know that this congregation has been through a couple of years of challenging times. When I first arrived in August, my first task was to speak to as many of you as I could personally, to hear what you felt, where you stood on the events in this congregation, and how I could be of service to you and minister to you. From many I heard of trying times, not agreeing with the minister, arguing with those who did agree with the minister, feeling a rift appear between those who agreed and those who disagreed. Not only was there conflict between minister and congregant, but there appeared to be conflict resulting from this tension between congregant and congregant. It doesn't sound like it was a comfortable place to be. Tension brings an air of discord that never seems to leave, sometimes unbeknownst to us that this tension in the air is participating in the conflict. Tensions seem to rise and agreements are less frequent, causing more frustration, more animosity, and more arguments. Members go home angry, some stop coming, and many are worried about the future of the church. This sounds to me like a very trying time, and I listened, and I ministered, and I thought, and I thought. And I felt sad that all of this happened to this congregation over the years when so many wanted so much for this community and its future. I know what that feels like. In my home congregation many years ago, when I first became UU, I became a Board of Trustees member less than 2 years after joining. I was still in the glow of a newbie UU, so fired up, so evangelical about this new faith that I had discovered. I had left the Catholic Church I was raised in, wandered in the desert for nearly 30 years as an agnostic, and was so thrilled to find this faith that came without dogma or creed and did come with justice and inherent worth and dignity. As a board member, I began to see the conflict behind the scenes that some were facing within the congregation. I saw firsthand when I became parliamentarian at our congregational meetings how members would resist my denial of their motions or reveal the points of order they were lacking when they went against their own bylaws. There was a group of members that did not agree with the decision that the board made and the congregation voted for, and when they couldn't get anyone to change the course of events, they took matters into their own hands. The church had signed an agreement to sell some land behind the church that would give them substantial savings, along with funds to build a fellowship hall and make much needed repairs to the sanctuary. They would be set. The land would be used for senior housing, which would also offer an opportunity for an increase in membership. It seemed like a win-win situation. But these members could not part with this land that the congregation owned, were feeling somehow betrayed or feeling a loss. And they went around the neighborhood and riled up the neighbors so much that the company that bought the land to build the senior housing pulled out. The church was left with no extra funds, and as far as I know, there is still not to this day a fellowship hall. This created such animosity that for the next couple of years, there was a steady decline in membership. Longtime members and major donors began to leave, and when the settled minister left for personal reasons, they never got another settled minister. This congregation went down to less than 50 members now and is not thriving. This disagreement didn't begin the decline, but it ensured it. They never reconciled. They never healed. This, in some ways, is an extreme example, and yet in so many ways, it is not. Right relations were not upheld. We could dissect what occurred over and over again, but the foundation of this decline was the wound that did not heal. In the quote in Centering Words in the Order of Service this morning, Rumi says, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." And he capitalizes light. That light within us, spirit, soul, whatever you may call it, these moments of wounding are opportunities that we sometimes do not recognize. We can see as an objective bystander many times what the most beneficial course of action can be. But when we are in the thick of things, those are times when we can become blinded by our inability to be objective. Through no fault of our own, as humans, when we are personally involved, it can be difficult to see the light. But as we grow, we can learn to see the light. We can learn to see what lessons appear after the hurt. We can learn to see how we can change our part, learn to reconnect and revitalize those broken parts we hold. You are in that stage. You all in the congregation are ripe for healing. You have begun to do the work. Your lay leaders are doing the work of looking at the past to see how to create a better future. There is also individual work that needs to happen so that every person here is a part of that healing. It is interesting to look at systems in our lives and how they affect us when we are usually completely unaware that they are affecting us. This congregation is young compared to some, and yet you are growing. You're sustaining. You'll be celebrating 25 years in the next few months. And each individual has an impact on this congregation as a whole. There also have been patterns established through the years, some positive, some negative, that are so subtle you may not even be aware of their presence. This is some of the work we will be doing this year to help you recognize those parts of you that need some changing, those parts of you that need to heal, and those parts of you that haven't even been tapped yet. You have an opportunity to grow into your ownership of this place, to build a legacy for future generations who will know Unitarian Universalism and be grateful that it is here. One way to do that is happening next Saturday. Members should have received an email by now that describes the healing circle we'll be having here. This will be an opportunity to process the losses you've experienced over the last couple of years, for some to feel closure over events that happened that may not have quite gone the way you wished, and to reconcile with each other that grief, anger, or frustration that you may still be holding on to. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to move forward. It's an opportunity for me to learn more about you, a chance to be a more effective minister to you, and to help heal these wounds that may be deep or not so deep. We need to complete this work to move forward. The hard part is facing this hurt, facing any fear that you may have about even confronting these issues again, and releasing these painful moments so that you can move forward. If there's one thing I've learned in my many years of living, it's that some things never disappear. I may think that they do, but they are just buried. In our covenant with one another to be in right relations with each other, we need to face these past instances and let them go. That is letting the light into the wound, as Rumi says. And from author L. Arnost, who states, "Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you." Ours is not the only congregation that has experienced conflict. Ours is not the only denomination that has experienced discord and animosity. Amongst my colleagues, there is an institution that offers many resources to clergy in many denominations called the Alban Institute. I have a few of their books, and in one entitled Leading Change in the Congregation, Gilbert Rendell speaks of an observation from Thomas Merton, a Catholic monk and scholar. He answered a question that was posed to Jesus when his apostles asked, "How can one feed these people with bread here in the wilderness?" Merton observed that in truly creative times, which prompt new behaviors and new forms of ministry, what we often need from our God or higher power, and what our congregations often need from their leaders, is not a quick map to a final destination, the promised land, but bread for the wilderness, sustenance and strategies to help us find our ways. That is what we'll be looking at in this next year. Sustenance and strategies to help us find our way. What feeds the soul of this congregation? What is it you want to become? To be able to answer those questions, you need to clear a path. Let go of those feelings of hurt, grief, anger, and frustration, to be able to sit with each other in peace, so that the congregants sitting next to you won't feel that pain that's in the air. We need to rid ourselves of the pain and fill it with joy. Let's not have the pain stymie the joy and delight that we can share with one another. Rendell later states, congregations need to learn how to assess their own situation and learn how to experiment in the uniqueness of their own setting. There is so much possibility lying beneath you that is dormant. I want to be able to instill that hope in you, that resourcefulness in you that I know is there. One observation that I have noticed is that there is a lack of institutionalization in some of your committees. I am in the process of revitalizing the Pastoral Associates Committee and the Caring Circle. One of the things I've noticed is that many of you are doing little things for others, unnoticed and not archived, so that the rest of the congregation doesn't even know these things are being accomplished. Someone may take a meal to someone who just had surgery, or give a ride to someone to Sunday service who can't get here otherwise, but there's no record of this kind act occurring. So we never know that this kindness is a part of the congregation. This is not to expose confidentiality. Names need never be used. But there is not a record of these happenings. Then this person leaves, maybe moves away, and this kindness is lost. There's no one to pick up this task, as we never knew this task was happening. These are angel moments, when we are angels to one another. I know there are some members who have an aversion to meetings. I'm trying to understand that in a way, but not completely, because I actually really enjoy being in meetings. Which is a good thing for a minister. So in rejuvenating the pastoral associates, my hope is to create a structure so that these kindnesses can be revealed and recorded, When someone does a kindness for a fellow member, that kindness is not only felt by the recipient, but also felt by those it may never have touched. That kindness is in the air and will replace the pain that's in the air. So your aversion to writing things down or attending meetings to document progress could be hindering you. These are some of the systems that we can take a look at and evaluate. Are they working, or could they work better? I know of many kindnesses in this congregation. I have been the recipient of them all already. Healing will bring out more kindness to each other. Healing will give us an atmosphere of kindness that we can breathe in and spread all around us. We can increase the angels in this congregation simply by letting others know we are there. My wish and hope for you is to take what you've learned, take covenant, forgiveness, and gratitude that we've held as our themes in these beginning months, and create healing. When I was a chaplain, one of my influences was a Catholic priest named Henri Nouwen, who was heavily influenced by Anton Boysen, known as the father of spiritual care. He began chaplain work in the 30s. I will leave you with these words of Henri Nouwen. Did I offer peace today? Did I bring a smile to someone's face? Did I say words of healing? Did I let go of my anger and resentment? Did I forgive? Did I love? These are the real questions. I must trust that the little bit of love that I sow now will bear many fruits here in this world and the life to come. Ministry is not just for ministers. Anyone can minister. And in our world these days, we need every minister we can get. Let us be an angel to each other. May you minister to each other. May it be so. Blessed be.